Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all honor, all praise, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Arachak, Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. And as always, peace, blessings, and salutations unto the tabernacle of David, though for elect, scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. In this lesson, I want to make a response to this video here. This is on TikTok. And this Edomite, you're going to hear him basically break down the real idea behind UBI, Universal Basic Income. And when this system is set in place, it's not because the ruling class are just trying to be empathetic. It's not because they're trying to show some form of humanity to the people. This is really just to give breadcrumbs to the poor, the working class, the hungry, that if they don't receive anything, revolution would spark. All right, basically sedition, civil unrest, which is going to get there either way. All right, because it's only for so long, people will go without, being able to have the lifestyle that they once lived. People wanting, comfort, certain privileges that is now being stripped away through these legislations, executive orders, being without work, people losing their dream jobs, people that don't work their way up in positions on a job for many years, only for it to be stripped away. So insurrection, revolution, whatever you want to call it, I believe that's inevitable, of course. I mean, that's prophecy anyway. You read 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter. But the way they're setting up this collapse, we know that they're going to bring in this system, and they're going to basically condition you people when they start to offer these breadcrumbs, so to speak, in the form of UBI, Universal Basic Income. Because that's what it looked like is being set up. They setting it all up for Universal Basic Income. All right, so that you people can be pacified. All right, now before I start this, let me just get scripture. Proverbs 23. Proverbs 23 and 6, it says, "Eat thou not the bread of him that have an evil eye, neither desire thou his dainty meats, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, saith he to thee, but his heart is not with thee." All right, because their plan is for you to own nothing and be happy. Their plan is to control every resource that you're dependent upon for your daily necessity. All right. Their plan is to create an even wider financial disparity between the rich and the working class. Keep everybody at the bottom while they continue to be the head. All right. And going back to the curse, he shall lend to thee, thou shalt not lend to them. They shall be the head, you shall be the tail. And that's pretty much for everyone now. All right. So this is where we're at. And they feel that the people are going to eventually resist. So what better way than to create a digital form of bread and circus through universal basic income and, you know, more entertainment through this technology. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if they come out with these lenses that you saw in that show Black Mirror, where you put these contact lenses in, but it's virtual contact lenses. All right, you get to escape into a whole nother world, a whole nother, alternate universe, and be occupied there, where your mind is basically distracted on an artificial life. All right, while they continue to do the dirty work behind the scenes. All right, this is their new world plan. So anyway, let's get into it.
Let's start by naming the reality that everyone feels, but few will admit. That universal basic income, or UBI.
And shout out to the elder Ariala. All right, he's going into the MOTB breakdown and how the system is basically gearing up for them to start issuing out UBI to the citizens. All right, with all these different cuts, all these programs being stripped, basically sustainability is not going to go too well, because they're collapsing the system without really telling you. So universal basic income, it would just pacify. All right. Let's listen.
Isn't just some futuristic welfare program or Silicon Valley pipe dream. It's an ancient idea with Enlightenment roots. And today, it sits at the fault line where the old world is eating itself alive. The truth is, when the rich and powerful start flirting with UBI, it's rarely out of compassion. It's a calculated move. Anti-revolution insurance. A way to keep the pitchforks in the barn one more generation. But UBI is more than that, if we understand what it's for and where it comes from. Long before tech moguls put free money on the table, Thomas Paine was arguing for a groundbreaking principle in his pamphlet, Agrarian Justice. Paine didn't come up with the idea from nowhere. He stood in the shadows of the Enlightenment, looking back at Locke, at the very foundation of property and sovereignty. Locke argued that the earth was given in common to all mankind, and only through labor could an individual lay claim to any part of it. But Paine went a step further. He recognized that private property, by its very existence, expropriated a natural inheritance that belonged to everyone. His answer was...
In other words, the Most High, he created this earth, for us to live, to enjoy. And basically he saw you didn't create this earth. The rulers, the powers that be, the super rich, these billionaires, these trillionaires, you didn't create this earth. But yet they have a monopoly on all the resources of the earth. And now they're going to be the ones to decide who gets what, and be able to ration or portion, what everybody gets, while he get to have basically the whole pie and just give out the breadcrumbs. All right. And, more people are going to start to realize that. And it's going to spark that seditious energy. All right. Which when you read, was that Job, the 20th chapter? It talks about how every hand of the wicked shall come upon them. Let me see. It's Job 20 and Job 20, I'll start at 18. It says, that which he labored for shall he restore, and shall not swallow it down. That's talking about the riches. According to his substance shall the restitution be, and he shall not rejoice therein. All right, because more and more people are going to continue to find out that this ain't it, man. And it's not an adequate way to live, or depending on a fixed sum of aid or help to meet your daily needs every day. That's not a life. But you're hoping that it just pacifies the public. All right. It says, because he have oppressed and have forsaken the poor, because he have violently taken away an house which he builded not. And he did that all over the world. All right. He conquered, colonized, used brutal force, genocide, and he built, his empire. Okay. And used slave labor to do so. It says, surely he shall not feel quietness in his belly. He shall not save of that which he desired. There shall none of his meat be left. Therefore shall no man look for his goods. In the sufficient, it's like in the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. Every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. All right, you look up that word wicked. The word is aimal in the Hebrew. And it says, toiling concretely, a laborer. Figuratively, sorrowful, that laboreth, that is a misery, had taken labor. A laborer, sufferer, wretched one. Okay. People already feeling burnt out. Everybody's complaining about, working 9 to 5s. And then you got a lot of people that's being laid off from their jobs, so that without a way to sustain themselves and, feed their families. So you got a lot of people in panic mode. And then you got the women lamenting for the teats right now, because they thought that they were going to be able to, suck on the government's titty, for decades at a time, when, that system wasn't really set up for you to just depend on the entire time. It's just for you to get on your feet. But, people are being made uncomfortable right now. Okay. So more and more people are going to start to figure it out, that this whole system has actually been rigged this entire time. So you can never come, or basically there's never, you'll never be able to step onto this ladder to be able to get to where these super rich are. It's rigged for you to stay exactly where you are, man, at the bottom. Okay. And then they're going to, from at the top of this ladder, they're just going to drop breadcrumbs to the rest of the people. That's pretty much playing in people's face. So let's go back.
Not to abolish property, but to tax its exclusive use, to return to every person a birthright that the system had quietly stolen. In Paine's words, the earth, in its natural, uncultivated state, was and ever would have continued to be the common property of the human race. That was the original ground tax, a fund raised from landowners, not as charity, but as justice, distributed equally to all as compensation for being excluded from the commons. This wasn't welfare. It wasn't a gift from the benevolent rich to the needy poor. It was a recognition that every structure of civilization, private land, profit, market, rested on a foundation of exclusion. And if that exclusion could not be ended, it had to be compensated. The world Paine saw was just beginning.
Wow, the way he put that. So, you're not laboring and, you getting the reward of your labor. You're now being excluded from this corporate capitalistic basically the where the elites are, the super rich, you can never get to where they at. And because of that, to keep you from, crashing out, this is their way of compensating you. You see? Compensation for basically squeezing you dry. Making sure that you don't get further than you already are. That's basically what it is. This man is the devil, man, and this scriptures talk about that evil covetousness. All right. Habakkuk 2:6, and it says, "Shall not all these take up a parable against them, and a taunting proverb against them, and say, Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. How long unto him that ladeth himself with thick clay," which is debt. And the scriptures say, the servant, the borrower is servant to the lender, and they're the ones who pretty much put the world in debt through their banking system, their banking institutions. All right. So now everybody's a debt slave, and they have to basically hop on these hamsters wheels, and then the what you generate based off of that labor, a portion of that still goes back to them, and you're only just getting by and getting your daily necessities met, barely. Well, now you're not even getting that. You got to partner up with somebody in order to get your basic necessity, because what you're generating now is not sufficient enough on your own. And then as basically the common individual, while they're going through that, more property is being bought up by the corporations, more farmland, all the utility, all the water, all the resources. All right, everything is being bought out. They're gentrifying basically the entire planet. Gonna push you into 15-minute smart cities where you're overly surveilled and monitored. All right, and they're just a complete takeover, man. So eventually that's people are gonna take notice to this, and they're gonna want to rise up. It says, "Shall they not rise up suddenly, that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for spoils unto them, booties, because thou hast spoiled many nations. All the remnant of the people shall spoil thee because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land and of the city, and of all that dwell therein. Woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil." Yeah, because they're not in trouble as other men. We suffered many different troubles. Things that those who don't have the wealth that they do, these are the issues or troubles that we have to face. One missing paycheck and you can be homeless, or you can't pay a certain utility, or you got to decide between the amount of groceries you can buy versus certain bills you have to pay. They don't have to deal with that, the super rich. All right, so it's gonna get to that point, man. But anyway, let's go back. I like how he's explaining this.
To industrialize. Today, we're living at the terminal point of that process. Every technological advance since the steam engine has sharpened the contradiction. Productivity soars, wealth piles up, and the basic costs of survival get locked away behind higher and higher paywalls. The more the machine produces, the less the worker keeps. The logic of capitalism is simple. Profit requires scarcity, and scarcity must be manufactured even as abundance becomes the new default. Now, we're facing a reality Payne could only have imagined. We're on the brink of automation wiping out entire industries, from factory floors to corporate boardrooms. Artificial intelligence, robotics, and network logistics have made it possible to do more with fewer people than ever before. In this world, the old justification for wage labor, that survival depends on your usefulness to an employer, breaks down completely. The only reason anyone is still scrambling for scraps is that the machine of profit requires them to be. So why are the rich, the technocrats, and the strategists suddenly interested in UBI? Because they see what's coming. The logic of the system has always been to defer crisis, to avoid the revolution that would come if people truly understood the scam. UBI for them is the ultimate shock absorber. If you can keep people just comfortable enough, just distract.
Yep. Especially niggas. Especially Jake, man. All you got to do is just give them some breadcrumbs, man. Jake is gonna, they're gonna beg for the crumbs that fall from the master's table, and if they can get just that, they're not gonna complain because they're used to these conditions. They're used to going to the enemy for the one of all things. So that's part of the curse. All right, that's just how it is. But Esau, they understand that they're being duped. So you're gonna mainly see the revolution sparked through them. They're not gonna stand for this any longer, man. And this is where you're gonna have Egyptian against Egyptian. This is where you're gonna have, the civil war, sparking. Because they're the main ones that realize this. Jake, they've always been under this. Well, really Esau too, but they've always had the welfare system in place, and they were comfortable with it. But now that it's being cut, they're gonna start to feel it. All right. I like how he's breaking this down, man. Because Esau, he doesn't do anything good unless there's a catch to it. Let me grab the book of Sirach. Is Sirach 14:7, and it says, "And if he doeth good, he doeth it unwillingly, and at the last he would declare his wickedness." All right, so this man doesn't do anything good, nothing with good intention. Every move that he make is based on his own insatiable desire to control and to have all power and authority. Okay, it's all for his own benefit. But they'll try to package this whole thing up like this is something that's going to help save humanity. But we all know what they're really up to. They're hoarding all the power to themselves. All right, and basically saying F you to the entire rest of the world. They're going for the jugular. All right. So I'll read the next two verses. It says, "The envious man have a wicked eye. He turneth away his face and despiseth men." Yeah, they showing you that they despise that they. If you're not in their echelon, if you're not within that whole sector of You know, the corporate world is super rich. You know, these billionaires and trillionaires, they don't give two shits about you, which is why they also are pushing that whole the depopulation ideology, that there's too many people in the world and there's not enough resources to go around. So we need to reduce the population of the earth. So let's do this and let's do that. Let's find these solutions. You know, they're showing you that they really despise men. The Most High, you don't think that, given that he created the heavens and the earth, that the Lord didn't make everything good. Everything will under other empires. There has never been such an ideology, because these other nations that ruled even before Esau, they didn't drain the earth of its resources. You didn't have these issues. Esau, when he began to rule, you know, not only did evil increase, but the world started to suffer, depleting the earth of its resources and destroying everything. And now he wants to complain, yeah, we got to preserve these resources. So we got to cut off the activities of man on earth, when it's him that's, destroying and draining everything. Okay. And he wants to hold the common people responsible. It says, a covetous man's eye is not satisfied with his portion, and the iniquity of the wicked drive up his soul. All right, which basically they're cold. All right, they don't have any ounce of humanity, integrity. Like, basically, they can care less about you people suffering or people dying off. Just as long as they, get their new world order going. Complete. And what happened in the last 5 years was all a wealth transfer. No more sustainability, self-sufficient sustainability. Everything would be dependent on them. And they get to be niggards with everything that they done hoarded up and stole. So that's why James, the 5th chapter, that complaint about, the rich man. James 5:1, it says, go to now, you rich. Matter of fact, let me read it in the NLT. It says, look here, you rich people, weep and groan with anguish because of all the terrible troubles ahead of you. Your wealth is rotting away, and your fine clothes are moth-eaten rags. Your gold and silver have become worthless. The very wealth you were counting on will eat away your flesh like fire. This treasure you have accumulated will stand as evidence against you on the day of judgment. For listen, hear the cries of the field workers, the laborers, the workers, the imal, whom you have cheated of their pay. All right, you cut them off, and then you want to give them, little breadcrumbs, just enough to hang by a string. The wages you held back cry out against you. The cries of those who harvest your fields have reached the ears of the Lord of heaven's armies, the Lord of Sabaoth. You have spent your years on earth in luxury, satisfying your every desire. You have fattened yourselves for the day of slaughter. You have condemned and killed innocent people who do not resist you. All right, but people are getting ready to, So let's finish this out.
Enough. You can keep the wheels of profit spinning a few decades longer. It's a safety valve, not a step toward liberation. If the bottom drops out of the job market and millions find themselves obsolete, UBI is the stipend to keep the peace. It's a calculated bribe to buy time. But pains...
And like the scriptures say, oppression maketh a wise man mad, and a gift destroyeth the heart. You know, these devils, they know how these people operate. All you got to do is just give them enough. But soon, you know, it's not going to be adequate enough. You know, especially here in Babylon, when people are used to abundance, you know, decadence. Once that's, you know, been reduced, these people, they're going to lose their shit.
Vision. And the true Enlightenment answer was never about managing unrest with charity. It was about restoring agency. He called for a ground tax because he saw the foundation, the land, the commons, the birthright of all. Every person deserved a material basis for freedom, not at the pleasure of the market, but as a matter of justice. In a post-industrial, post-scarcity world, this argument is even stronger. If technology has rendered most labor obsolete, and the means of production can provide for everyone, then the logic of ownership, profit, and gatekeeping has reached its natural end. The only thing standing between us and abundance for all is the operating system of capital itself, a system that demands artificial scarcity to justify its continued existence. UBI, when understood as a transitional tool, is not a utopian endpoint, but a ramp to the next phase of civilization. It's the shock absorber that buys time for society to re-engineer itself around the true promise of the Enlightenment. Liberty, equality, the pursuit of happiness as lived material realities, not empty slogans. A UBI is a minimum, a floor, never a ceiling. It is not the reward for good behavior or the price of obedience, but the down payment on a society that recognizes every person's right to exist, participate, and create without the constant threat of destitution. What the rich fear isn't poverty. They've insured themselves against that 1,000 times over. What they fear is the moment when enough people realize that UBI is just the first crack in the old order. They fear that once the basics are guaranteed, people will ask the question, why should a handful of owners, not society as a whole, control the means of production? Why stop at a subsistence check when the productive capacity of humanity can provide abundance, freedom, and time for all? This is why the Enlightenment matters now more than ever.
Yeah, so people are going to ask themselves that, and it's going to raise questions, and that's when you're going to start to see, because like the scriptures say, you know, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. All right, so, you know, this would give the people means to, you know, they're going to go beyond just protesting. Okay, and you know, at some point, you know, that's when Esau is gonna, you know, use this as a trap. All right, and he's gonna snare you up, and he's gonna swoop down. All right, and you either get with the program, or you get put off the earth, and that's where, you know, Revelation 13, you know, anybody that would not worship the image should be killed. And he calls of all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a charagma in their foreheads, or in their right hand, or in their foreheads. And then no man might buy or sell save he that had it. So if you know, it's going to get to the point where he's going to try to combat all his resistance. And then the ultimate solution is you got to get that mark. All right, you want to continue to get this aid. You want to continue to, you know, live, because these people, they love this world. So a lot of people are going to cave in, all right, to these devils. All right. The scriptures say that the elect, they're not going to love their lives unto death. Even Yahweh Shai said, he that shall save his life shall lose it. But he that will lose his life for my sake shall gain it eternal. So, we're going to have the attitude of, man, fuck your system. All right, fuck your breadcrumbs, your UBI. All right. Nah. And that's why ultimately Yahweh Shai is going to come and he's going to be the one to free us, of this oppression. Okay. Let me get that in Sirach 10 real quick. You're going to set one over this earth that is profitable. Esau is not profitable, man. He's for himself. There's Sirach 10 and verse 3, and it says, an unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them that which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. The power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable. All right? Because under Esau, is not profitable at all. The welfare of the people is not good. That's why it's all this crime going on. All right, with the big wealth gap, the financial disparity, limited resources to an abundance of people that are in close proximity of each other. That environment is definitely set up for crime to happen. All right, violence. People are going to, get desperate. Desperate times calls for desperate measures. And these devils, they know it. It's going to be like the purge all over. While these devils get to lay back, while they got all these riches and resources hoarded up for themselves. So the Lord's going to get with these devils, man. All right, Esau complaining. Everybody is not happy.
He saw a future where justice was not charity, where the foundations of wealth were open for all to share. Today, we can go further. We don't just have to compensate for lost inheritance. We can engineer a world where no one is locked out to begin with. But getting there means refusing.
And that's why this system is digital. All right, where you won't be able to, cross that barrier. All right, he's going to barricade everybody into this system. All right, where you're going to have to, participate in order to survive, or you getting cut out. That's basically where we at. So it's going to take for basically the Lord to have to come back and put a celestial, heavenly foot knee deep in his ass, and to dismantle this system. All right, in order for us to be freed from it. But you Edomites, you devils, y'all gonna go right in the captivity under us. Because your forefathers left y'all a tab. Okay. You nations, y'all still owe us. Don't forget about that. He that live in the captivity shall go into captivity. So it's gonna be the Lord's gonna break us. He's gonna break that yoke from off of our neck. Okay. And the Lord's gonna deliver us out of this oppression. Then, we get to rule the world in righteousness. Everything will be abundant. The earth will no longer be cursed. It'll bring forth abundantly. All right. We're going to show you how to really, truly manage and rule the planet. All right. Not like this madman. All right. Who's very, selfish, greedy, selfish, evil. So anyway, I thought I'd, do a lesson in response to this. How he broke this all down. All right, UBI is not just some relief system because They want to, empathize with the people, show some form of humanity and, to help people get on their feet. No, it has nothing to do with that. This is, continual control and dependency. All right, where they control while you depend. All right, and as long as it's like that, you'll never go nowhere. All right. So anyway, Lord willing, y'all were edified. I'm gonna give all honor, all praise, and glory to Yahweh Shem Shai. And until the next lesson, I say Shalom.